Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Catherine. I am so excited to have with me Chef Silvana. She is a chef, of course, a mentor, a neighborhood activist, eight-time James Beard semifinalist, and owner of several of Arizona's best restaurants, including Barrio Cafe, which is celebrating 18 years in Phoenix. Congratulations, Chef.
Thank you. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's so good to see you. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. Even in quarantine, we're still able to see each other. So that's the beauty of it all.
Yes, I love that. And again, congratulations on 18 years. It's so terrific. You have said that your food is about carrying on the family traditions of 800 years of Mexican bakers in your family, but you've also said it is not Mexican food. So, how would you describe your food, and why do you think it resonates after all these years with so many people?
Well, I think the best description for my food is Chef Silvana's food. Cocina de autor, the author's food. Everybody could tell a story, but how that person tells that story, that makes it unique to that writer. Well, in this case, I'm the writer of the food in this restaurant. And I think it resonates with people because it's genuine, it's authentic, it doesn't copy other people. Instead, it takes my Mexican roots, my
Mhm.
Mexican 800 years of family legacy, and it makes it my own. And my restaurant reflects my personality from the interior to the exterior to the food and the attitude as well. So it's a
Yes.
combination of many years and many factors.
Well, it's delicious and, like you mentioned, rich in culture that goes way, way back. I want to talk about the impact of the pandemic on you specifically, your restaurants, the industry. You personally, you had to shutter Barrio Gran Reserva permanently because of COVID. You couldn't afford to stay open. How painful was that decision for you?
Oh my goodness. I never physically bore children. And I think that for me to create something that comes out of me in a restaurant is, especially something like Gran Reserva, which was totally just made up cuisine. That's my child. That's my baby. That's the restaurant I wanted to open before Barrio Cafe.
Mm,
But I felt Arizona, 20 years, 18 years ago was not ready, nor were the ingredients, as it wasn't sustainable for me to do a restaurant like that. So for me to close something that's taken me full circle to finally, at the end of my career, finally get to enjoy and open a restaurant of that caliber and that cuisine, I had to make a sacrifice, and that
hmm.
was it. But you can't take away what I have danced. Ya lo bailado nadie te lo quita, amiga. What you have done, dance, never does it go away. The
No.
memory, the impact, it's all there. I think culturally it was very important for the city to have a restaurant of that nature that is polar opposite of what, let's say, the current administration denotes Mexicans to be. Um, and America perceives in that same light, erroneous light, Mexican food,
Hmm.
chimichangas, yellow cheese. It's comfort food. It's American comfort food, my friend, with the Mexican undertones and
Which
Mexican
is
evolution, if you will.
which is why I go back to what is so special about your food. It's not Mexican food. It is something so singular and so original. And like you said, it's hard to even put it into a category, and so special. And having to close Barrio Cafe, which you had to do temporarily as well, I know was very painful for you as well. But you reopened this past weekend. Granted, not the way you would have liked, but it is open for delivery and pickup. How good is it to be back?
I never left. Let me explain. Let me back up a little bit. On March 13th, my business partner and I decided to close down until further notice. On March 14th, I started giving food away. And for 47 days, I got busy. I was cooking by myself with or without volunteers. My staff was not here, so I had the restaurant to myself. So I created a community kitchen.
Hmm.
And so I never left. In fact, it felt really good to be in there and be the one that was going to have to cook. the one that was going to have to put the meat in the oven at night and then get up at 4 a.m. to check it and then be there at 7 to pull it out. It was all me. There was no teamwork. There was nothing. And then eventually 1, 2 volunteers started coming, and then 6. And then I had so many volunteers that it was too much. But so to get through a pandemic in that nature, for me, it was therapeutic. It was relaxing. It was probably one of the most heart-filled, satisfying things I've ever done in my life. You can't go through a once-in-a-lifetime experience like a pandemic and not get the best out of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
My restaurant is closed. I have no income. I haven't taken a paycheck in I don't know how long. But I have a kitchen. And it's my responsibility to make that kitchen hum. And that love to continue to come out of that kitchen. And it came out, it still does. We feed just a homeless senior center once or twice a week. I'm in love now with that center and what they're doing for the homeless. So I continue to do that. So it never stopped. What feels good to be back is serving my customers.
Yes.
And maybe seeing a little bit of a dollar bill come in. Because I'm telling you, what I'm doing now, I don't think it's sustainable, to be honest with you. I'm a very, very realist person. And if I was opening up a to-go restaurant, then I would open up a to-go restaurant.
Yeah, that's not who you are.
No, but to try to make, and the food that I'm serving is spectacular because it's designed to go home and to be put together and to be shared, right? That's not really the way I do it here. But the expenses that I'm incurring are enough for a to-go restaurant. They're for a sit-down, full-fledged restaurant. And so at some point, I'm going to run out of money for that too. And I hate to say this, but I'm a realist. I might go under at Barrio Cafe too, because I don't care how established you are. Who can endure long periods of time of this?
Well, tell me how you have been able to endure, because as you mentioned, you've been going out into the community, you've been serving healthcare workers, excuse me, you've been serving, the homeless population, the community at large, school children. You've been able to pay a core group of your staff during most of this. How have you been able to sustain for this long?
I took my savings and I put them into my family. Catherine, when you have a family and the poopy hits the fan, do you say, okay, you guys, I'm good. I'll take care of myself over here? Look, I could have closed my restaurant for a year, paid my mortgage, paid minimal, turned off the lights, paid minimal, and took a paycheck. All right? And survived and still had money to come back. All right?
You didn't.
No, I chose not to. I chose to pay my employees. There was no PPE. I was the PPE. Me and my partner, Wendy, we were the PPE. And now we're broke. But my thinking is when the ship is sinking, we do this together. So now we're trying to keep the ship afloat together. And it feels good to be in there together as a team. They know we're broke. And they also know that for the last 4 months, they've received a full paycheck, thanks to us.
What's the response been? What do they say to you? What do they tell you?
The employees are very grateful. Unfortunately, I have a core group and that's all I can afford to bring back.
Right.
And, we're making everybody work really hard, myself included, to make it happen. If it goes under, it goes under not because my food was bad or my employees were not good. It's just because it's not sustainable. That's not the model that I had set up for business. And they're willing to go work for free for me at this point, to make it happen. And I'm trying not to make that happen. So I couldn't be much of a leader if I'm at home sitting on my money and saying, go get unemployment and check with me later, knowing that I had money.
Well, it's like you mentioned, this is your family and it matters that you do this together, obviously. What kind of a lasting impact do you think that this pandemic will have? I mean, we've already seen what kind of an impact it's having on you, but what kind of an impact do you think, a lasting impact do you think it's going to have on the restaurant industry?
Catherine, let's not fool ourselves. It's devastating. That's the lasting impact.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not forget that before this pandemic hit, big name, iconic restaurants were slowly closing one by one by one. Dining was not the way it was. The new generation was ordering to go to home and all of this stuff. And so the model that we already had set up in restaurants, you have to be either quick and change, you have to be very adaptable and fluid, or you're going to be archaic and a dying kind of restaurant. I was already adaptable and changing with the Barrio Cafe. That has not changed. So I took this as an opportunity to change the menu completely. When I reopen, and I will reopen if I do, it'll be a different menu. It'll be a different restaurant.
In what way?
In the way that I'm not the same chef that created Barrio Cafe 18 years ago. And this is an opportunity to close out with the old and in with the new. I'm a very firm believer in being fluid, and if the house is burning down, then let it burn down and start over. You know, out of every volcanic eruption, eventually comes a massive amount of growth of green. And, you know, fortunately, I know myself. I'm a resilient person. I have mad talents. I mean, for Christ's sake, I was going to retire in 2 years anyway and become a
Yes.
But now I have to think about those families that rely on the Barrio Cafe, and that's where I'm at. I don't want it. I wanted to retire in 2 years. I definitely did not want to retire like this. And I'm getting so much love from everywhere. I have a big family base. I hate to say fan base because that's such a pompous word, you know. It's soy orgullo mexicano de muchos, and I'm the pride of many who don't have representation. I know that.
You're an Arizona icon.
And I acknowledge that because I worked very hard to be, I swim against the current. I don't go with the flow. I just have to make sure my strokes are bigger to obtain some land here when I'm traveling against the flow. The flow is easy. Against the current is not. It's a little bit more of a challenge. I know that I speak my truth, and my truth sometimes resonates with many that don't have that voice. And I know that my truth also hurts many and alienates some customers, and I'm okay with that too.
I want to talk to you about something very, very personal for just a moment, and that is the fact that many people may not realize that you were diagnosed not too long ago with a rare chronic disease, which compromises your immune system, putting you at high risk for COVID. You're still out in the community delivering food. You're still interacting with people because that's who you are. But do you worry?
I wear a mask.
Well, that's the number one important thing.
I have sanitizer everywhere. I could stay home, but you know, I closed down the restaurant because I didn't want to put my Barrio family in danger. But I was okay with putting myself in danger. I didn't want to be a non-essential chef. Like, I needed to pivot from serving fancy craft cocktail margaritas to, you know, food to feed the masses and the soul of many. That's just my calling. What can I say? I can't go against it, you know, and my disease doesn't define me. It compels me. Sometimes it knocks me on my butt to where I have to stay in bed, and I can't. I'm, you know, it's funny because when they said about COVID, I believe I had COVID at the very beginning. I came back from Europe. But all that aside, it was really hard to tell anything at the beginning because I struggle with that body pain every single day. It's a horrific pain. You don't know what degree. There's no cure for my disease. But I do know that the right living and the formula that I have found has saved my life, not once, but twice. It has reversed dying organs that needed transplants or dialysis, and I did neither. So I know for my experience that what I'm doing works, and right living is the right thing to do. Trying to find a way to stay a fat cat, sit on my money, sit on my little empire, and protect my life is not my style. I come from kings and queens. And as this racist white lady told me in Lynchburg, Tennessee, where she said, "Oh, you come from kings and queens, which ones?" And I told her, she said, "Oh, you come from all the good ones." And if that DNA is in my being, including King David, Charlemagne, Constantine the Great, Saint Catherine, I come from saints. All right. I also come from indigenous that didn't know how to read or write. I come from many, and I acknowledge all that as part of my being. So I'm a fighter. So, guerrera, I'm a warrior. I believe in protecting the culture that I come from. And that means if you say, "Well, I don't know, I like that yellow cheese on my chimichanga," and I'm going to say, "Well, that's delicious, but brother, let me clarify something from you. That comes not from Mexico, but from the United States."
Right.
All right. And there's nothing wrong for me to say that.
No.
Just make it a clarification on an erroneous perception. I speak the truth.
Yes.
And I have to speak the truth, because if not, we're going to always be known as chimichanga eating yellow cheese Mexicans that rape and take your jobs. And we're not.
Well, I think anybody who follows you on social media knows that you speak the truth and that you are very authentic. You are very honest about not only what you're going through, but how you feel. As I mentioned at the top of this, you are an activist and you are very vocal and you speak for many people who cannot speak. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I also
celebrate you, my friend. I celebrate everybody.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate the fact that you also go on social media and you talk about discovering the blessings in this time, because there are some when we choose to look for them. So tell me a little bit about what kind of blessings, because it's been a challenging time, what kind of blessings you've discovered during this pandemic.
The first one was that even with a chronic debilitating disease, I have the desire to serve my fellow man is so great that it could make my pain go away. For real. For me to be going there and cook, oh, what a blessing. Literally, for me to have my kitchen by myself and go in there and cook for hundreds of people is a blessing. That I can lift a big pot full of chile and move it around my kitchen and drag those beans around and all that, that's a blessing. Because there's days I couldn't get out of bed. I have met countless of people who were just my customers or just people on the internet who are now my friends, who came and gave of themselves and told me their stories as we chopped up and cut and fed our community. I have met people in the community. So, my God, out of a negative always comes a positive. You got to be a phoenix to grow out of those ashes. And don't be paralyzed with fear. Be forward moving. Take it as an opportunity. Even if the house is burning down, let it burn down and look forward to the rebuild of your spirit, your soul as a community. There's perhaps people that didn't like me before that maybe don't look at me at the same light. Perception is your reality. That's your perception. And perhaps because I speak a certain way, I might come across a certain way. But at the end of the day, if we don't agree on anything, we agree on one thing: food. Right?
That is true.
I grew up a preacher's daughter, baker's and preacher's daughter, and I don't talk about the preaching part enough. That is part of my cellular being. It's my hardwire. I was taught to serve, serve, serve. Go knock on people's doors and preach to them. And that's what I still do, but in my own personal way.
Yes. And it is so much appreciated. And that is why I, for one, am looking forward to the books that continue to evolve from your life. And you are continuing to write, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am. Just talking to you earlier, I was already coming up with 5 books instead of 3 that I got in the can. I better get busy.
Yes. Well, you are so busy. And, since we're talking about books, you are featured in a new book called Phoenix Cooks: Recipes from the City's Finest Chefs for people like me to be able to cook at home. It's scheduled for release September 1st, but you are autographing a limited number of copies right now. So first of all, how did you choose what recipe to feature, and how can people get one of those autographed copies?
Well, unfortunately, with the autographed copies, I got them on, I believe, Friday, and by today I have sold out.
Well, that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Right. And but you can get them from other chefs who are in the book. We all got advanced copies, and what I would do is buy the book anywhere I could, and then go find those chefs and have them sign it. I'm doing
great idea.
I'm giving them extra recipes. And how did I choose the recipes? I gave you cochinita pibil and chiles en nogada. I felt like a book that defines Phoenix in its title then needed to have 2 dishes that have been they were unique to Phoenix because they were unique to me, but they're Mexican dishes that have been celebrated for years and years. And it's also ironic that I had a customer tell me and say, I like Phoenix because they celebrate chiles en nogada and cochinita pibil everywhere. So those 2 dishes are in many restaurants, not just mine, where if you go to another city, you're not going to find them at all. So Phoenix has been already, in the last 18 years, embraced it as part of their culinary identity, and they're my dishes. So I love it.
It's a treasure, that's for sure. And I'm looking forward to getting my hands on a copy. By the way, Wednesday, you will be celebrating your 60th birthday. Happy birthday.
Yeah, that's why I was jumping off my house into the pool yesterday.
As you should. You said it was going to be a week-long celebration, but I'm thinking it should be a month-long celebration.
Oh, yeah.
What is next for you?
Really, I'm working on a product line. See, work is my hobby because I love what I do. So I'm always looking for what am I going to do next. And I'm working on a product line that I've had in my head for years. And I'm actually selling this stuff here now at the Barrio. And this book should be out in a few months. I'm hitting it hard. It's been written. I just have to re-edit it and put it together and publish it.
Well, you make sure to let me know, okay? Because I would love to help promote that as much as I could.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It is so great to catch up with you. And we've already made a date for me to go pick up some food. So I'm looking forward to that.
I appreciate everybody's support. I thank you the opportunity to have this conversation with you, Catherine.
Well, I celebrate you, and I celebrate everything that you contribute to this community and everything that you are. If people would like to find you, you are at chefsilvana.com. And of course, go try your wonderful food if they haven't already, and go indulge if you do on a regular basis, because it is fantastic.
Gracias,
as are you, my friend.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching Conversations with Catherine. Please remember to hit the subscribe button, like, and comment while you're here. I'll see you next time.